Hi everyone, Erica of Confident Parenting. I'm answering your parenting questions, and this mom wants to know, does the 4-month sleep regression ever get better without needing to do sleep training? That's an awesome question, and I'll try to keep my answer short, but I don't think it will be. So a couple of things to know about the 4-month sleep regression before we decide if it's something that will go away on its own or not. We first want to understand why it's happening. So the word regression is sort of a misnomer. What's happening around that time, and it really happens anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks, so your baby might not be quite 4 months yet when it happens. The brain is taking a huge progression forward, a huge leap in development. So your baby's going from having a newborn brain, which is only about 25% of the way developed when babies arrive, even full term, having this huge explosion in development. And you'll know that it's happening because you'll have basically an older, wiser baby that's more interactive, more alert, noticing everything that's going on around them, maybe trying to engage with you. And you'll know your baby has hit that spot. So think of a time when your brain has maybe been on overdrive. You had a big presentation to give for work or a major deadline, or you were flying somewhere to some exciting destination the next day. It might be hard for you to turn your brain off and shut down and fall asleep because you have so much racing through your mind. Or you might crash, fall asleep really easily, but then you're really restless. You're up and you're up and you're up because you're sort of racing. So part of what happens at this progression, or if we want to call it regression, is that baby's brain is just basically on fire, and understandably, sleep becomes temporarily harder to come by. So some parents find that the 4-month regression is just a temporary bump on the radar. For some, a few days and nights. For some, it can last longer, a few weeks. And then the development settles down, and a baby could potentially bounce back to whatever their previous pattern was. Now, if your baby's pattern was not that great before, that's what you're going to be bouncing back to in most cases. But if your baby had a great pattern prior to the regression, then maybe they're going to bounce back to that. So yes, it is possible that you could kind of skate through, survive, and everything would magically go back to normal. However, that's not the only change that's taking place at that time, and this is where a lot of parents run into trouble, and they find that their baby gets stuck in the regression. Along with this big leap in brain development, your baby's sleep patterns are changing. So instead of the more simple sleep patterns that they had and needed as a newborn, now they have a bigger brain, and to sustain that, they need more complex sleep pattern. And these complex sleep patterns basically have more opportunities for your baby to wake up. So none of us technically sleep through the night, which you probably already know. We transition between various cycles, various types of cycles. And as we transition from one to the other, we hit what I like to think of as a speed bump in our sleep. It's technically called a partial arousal. And in the term, partial arousal, you can hear that we wake up a little bit. So think about when you're driving down the road. You could be on a nice flat road with no bumps in the way, or you could be driving through a development that has a speed bump, every few feet, and you have to constantly slow down, get yourself up and over the bump, continue on your way, do it all over again. So a lot of parents find that even when the brain development settles down, their baby does not bounce back to their previous better patterns. And the reason for that is you now have a more aware, alert baby that notices the environment around them, combined with more opportunities to wake up throughout the night and throughout each nap. And what happens when an older baby with a wiser brain hits these opportunities is they look around and go, where did everybody go? The last thing I remember, I was in mom or dad's arms, maybe on the breast, on the bottle, bouncing on your leg, walking around the room with you, what have you. And the next thing I knew, maybe I was here alone in my crib, my bassinet, whatever it might be. So not only am I not too thrilled about this change of venue, I also don't know what to do to now get myself back into this next sleep cycle. So my long answer to your short question is that I find that the babies that will bounce back from this regression without needing any changes to the way that you approach sleep are the ones that were already kind of aware that they were being put down before the regression hit and could kind of do that last bit of drifting off more independently and also in the same sleep space that they're going to wake up in later, versus the babies who are reliant on loads of help and are falling asleep on a parent or in another space and then are transferred to another location. Those are the ones that are probably not going to bounce back, and you're going to need some sort of Whether we want to call it sleep training and whether it's going to be a hands-off, cry-it-out strategy, that's for another video. There are options and there are other ways to go about that. But what it often requires to get past this regression spot is to say, hey, what are the things that my baby attaches to sleep in his or her mind, whether it be feeding or rocking or bouncing, and then how can we start to help him or her to be less reliant on those things and more reliant on his or her own abilities, which is why I prefer to call it sleep learning rather than sleep training. First of all, that gets the hair on everybody's neck to stand way up, so I try to avoid that, but also really it's just a learning process for you as a parent to understand how sleep works, what's involved, what's wrong when it isn't going very well, and then it's a learning process for your baby of how can I start to take this over more by myself. If a baby doesn't know how to initiate sleep at the beginning of the sleep cycles, it's very unlikely that they'll be willing or able to manage reinitiating sleep when they hit the end of a cycle and need to then move into the next one. So that's really what sleep learning is about. How can I get my skills, just like with rolling or walking or crawling, how can I figure out the mechanics and how to put them together so that I can smoothly get through these little speed bumps that fall throughout the night. So yes, it is possible for some families to never need to do any type of sleep training or sleep learning, but when you're not coming out of the 4-month regression and it's been more than a few weeks, that probably signals that the developmental phase has passed and now we are stuck with some habits that need to be addressed. So Mom, I hope that helps. If you have a question you'd like answered, go ahead and send it to me in the story post or via a private message, or you can email erica@beaconfidentparent.com. And if you'd like one-on-one support for your sleep or potty training issues, learn more also at beaconfidentparent.com. Thanks for watching, guys.